I change my brain? Am I just a victim to who I am? I'm your host, Steve Sisler. Stay tuned for another episode of Behavioral Insights.
Where are you going? What is your destiny? When do you think you'll arrive? Do you want to speed it up? Next on Behavioral Insights. I was reminded again this morning why some people advance quicker than other people do. Why some people are somehow missing the fact that they can really take advantage of the current world we're living in. So rather than complaining about the current world you're living in, why don't you capitalize on the current world you're living in? So I thought I would share just a few pointers, maybe a few stories to help you, because I've been working with people in the behavior for many, many, many years. And I thought I could share a few things that I've discovered and give you some pointers for moving faster into your, let's call it a sweet spot. So number one, you need to understand that the world is moving away from local and it's moving towards global right now. And it has been for quite some time, especially with relationship building. This means it is no longer about who you know locally, but it's really about who you know globally. Do you know most of my consulting work is outside of this country and has been for the last 16 years? I am a global consultant simply because of the internet. If I didn't have the internet, I'd have to reconfigure the entire way I do things in the world. So I'm taking advantage of something that is extremely powerful. And you may not think this is important, but you'd be wrong if you did. So no matter how your local economic condition is, there are countless others who are much less affected by it. I received a phone call from an individual in Australia at one time who heard me on a podcast. And that, that phone call translated into $15,000. So regardless of how things were going in Plano, Texas, it really didn't matter to me because I was basing my economy on Australia at the time. So very interesting. The internet is really your ticket out of town without actually leaving. So if you're not connected to other people through the internet, through your social media, and becoming internet known, you're behind. You're going to be way behind. So you need to understand that you have to capitalize on the internet because what it does is it puts you in every person's home all over the world, and it puts you in front of people that you would have never met without it. The second thing is people with what I call future brains are much more apt to overcome challenges and achieve results than people with past brains. So what's the difference between a future brain and a past brain? And if you have a past brain, how do you make it a future brain? Well, you can't make a past brain a future brain, but you can understand if you have a past brain, there might be some things you need to do a little differently. So I'm not about to tell you to change who you are, but I will tell you you should change how you do. A future brain is a person who says, hey, let's go to the beach tomorrow. Okay? Or if you said to me, hey, would you like to go to the beach tomorrow? A future brain would say, sure, that sounds great. What does a past brain do? A past brain says, let me check the weather for tomorrow. Last time I went to the beach, it rained on us. That's the difference. And so if you never get to check the weather, you're likely not going to the beach. Every opportunity that lies between today and the end of the beach day tomorrow will be lost on the brain, the past brain, if the weather doesn't look exactly the right way, or maybe there's clouds looming. But futurists are opportunists. A better way of moving ahead is to think about what could be rather than thinking about what was. And so if you're a person who's always thinking about what was before you start to think about what could be, you could be slowing yourself down. So opportunists are far better at moving ahead, fulfilling dreams, and making money than logic brains are, because they take risks. You might meet your new wife or husband at that beach, regardless of whether it rains or not. So you have to be, what's the word I'm looking for? You have to be, you have to be proactive. That's the word I'm going to use. You have to be proactive at making sure you're not always sitting in the same spot, hanging around your house, doing nothing when you have downtime. You have to get yourself around other people, especially if people is your business. What's the third thing that can help you reach your sweet spot? Visualizing and experiencing your future now can help you create it. Now, I'm not one of those woo-woo people who talks about, thinking things into existence or anything like that. But there is a part of this that does work. So the part of this visualization here, and let me just give you an example for me. So I bought a BMW I don't know how many years ago, maybe 5 years ago or something. But before I did that, I was visualizing a BMW. So what I did was I opened up a page, a car page, like a car sales app or whatever it was on my computer. Now my screen is huge. It's 55 inches and it's HD and it's high. It's 4K. So I have a lot of real estate on that monitor. So I just had a window open in the top left corner open to all the BMWs available within a 50-mile radius. And whenever I had a few minutes, I would scroll through and look at them, and I loved clicking on the picture. And then, of course, there's like 21 different photos of the car, everything from the wheel wells to the trunk to the dashboard. And I would just look at the inside and outside of those cars. I wanted a convertible. And so I had this page open every day with pictures of the types of BMWs I wanted on it. Now, I was going to pay cash, so I was going used, and I wanted to go very nice. So I just kept doing this, preparing myself for the car, really before it came. Now, what happened to me, I don't want to attribute to doing this, because that would make me a witch. So I am going to share what happened, but I'm not tagging it to what I was doing. Just for your information. Let me shut my phone down here. I just making sounds, and I don't want to interrupt this. So I was in Chicago speaking at a client's location. And so while my client was driving me to the airport after I spoke there, he just pulled out his phone and showed me this BMW on it. And it was a silver BMW 323 Ci, red leather interior, convertible. And I thought it was funny because I had obviously been looking at these for months. And I said, "Oh, that's really sharp." He said, "Yeah, my friend Steve is selling this. You know Steve so-and-so." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah," because I shared the stage with him once. He goes, "You want it?" And I said, "Yes." I mean, I didn't even hesitate. It's weird. I knew that was my car. I don't know why. I just knew it was my car. So he called the guy right there while we were driving to the airport and handed me his phone. And I said, "Hello?" He said, "Hey, this is Steve, so-and-so." I said, "Hey, Steve Sisler." And he's like, "Oh, hey, man, what's up?" I said, "Yeah, so-and-so was just showing me the car you're selling. What's the status on that?" He said, "Oh, yeah, it's for sale, da-da-da-da-da. And, I'm giving him a good deal. Obviously, he's a friend. And you know what? He said he's not interested in it, but I'll give the same deal to you." And I just said, "Okay, I'll take it." Sight unseen, right? Now that's a future brain for you right there. So that's kind of how that happened. I bought the car basically over the phone. Now, there's more to that story, obviously. So I ended up arranging to fly out there, and then I was going to drive the car home. So before I left, I got my plane ticket and was going to go get the car. And I was giving him a deposit on the car. And then I was planning on paying it off within a week or two. And so before I left, I got a phone call from a client that wasn't a client. It was a new person. It was actually, no, I didn't get a call from that particular person. I got a call from a friend who is a coach, who was working with a person and knew that, whatever my expertise was in his mind, I could help this guy. So he told the guy, "You need to call Sisler." So that's how this happened. So this guy called, and he wanted to see me in Branson, Missouri when I was getting the car. So that was kind of a bummer. So I said, "Well, listen, I can't do it. I'm flying to Kansas City to pick up an automobile." He goes, "Oh, what are you getting?" And I told him, and he said, "What are you paying for it?" And I told him, and he said, "How are you paying for it?" And I said, "Why the 20 questions?" And I told him, and he said, "Let's do this. If you go get that car, go home, and then turn right around, like within this amount of time, and come see me, I'll pay your car off." So, of course, I said, "Sure, I'll do that." So I went home, turned around, went back to Branson, Missouri, and he gave me basically thousands of dollars worth of gold bullion, and I cashed it in and paid the car off. So that's a pretty crazy story, but I want you to know it began with me dreaming about having that car, about getting that car. When I got the car, it still had the plastic on the carpet from the factory. I had to peel it off. It was an older car, and yes, I inherited problems that come with old cars. And so, it's not a perfect story. But I drove that car for at least 4 or 5 years. It was a great car. I enjoyed the car. And then I sold the car and bought a different one. But the point I'm making is that dream became a reality. And I was part of making that a reality. And it appears the universe lined up real quick to assist me there. So are you dreaming about what you want? Are you visualizing it? Are you looking at it? Are you paying attention to it? Are you imagining things? You know, future thinkers, they imagine and they make. That's the two things they do. They imagine things happening and they make things happen. If they can. I mean, if it's in their power to do it, they really work at doing it. Past brains, they hope and they doubt. They hope things happen. So they're fully relied on whether they happen or not, but there's no self-reliance. There's only reliance on exterior sources for getting things done. And they doubt things will happen. They're like, well, I can't afford that. There's no way that'll work for me. When you think like that, you're not doing yourself any favors. Those thoughts are not your friends. Okay. Those are enemies. I don't want you thinking that way. What's a fourth thing? I build all my relationships around the people I want to be like. Almost every interactive and meaningful moment I have with people that I want to be like moves me closer to my goals. I hang out with people that are getting stuff done. I hang out with people that take chances. I hang out with people that risk things in order to do what they want to do. I hang out with people that allow their money to go through their hands like water. Like people that we go out with 7 people and they'll pick up the tab. No problem. I love that. Not getting my food paid for, but I love people that are generous, and I love people that don't live in fear about their money. Because over the years, it's trained me. Whenever I go to eat with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I don't care how many people it is, whenever I go to eat with them, before I get in the car in my driveway, I've crossed the bridge of paying for that entire dinner every single time. And I just feel the situation out when I get there to see if this is the one that I'm going to actually do it with or not. And you know what? I do it most of the time, unless somebody stops me. And why do I do that? Because if you cast your bread on the water, over time, it'll return on the waves. That's what King Solomon said. Givers gain, keepers lose, in many ways. So you got to remember that. Here's another story. I got a phone call several years back by a gentleman that basically I work with in a speaking. How do I say that? I work with him because I don't want to reveal who it is. But I work with him in consulting. That's all I'll say. So he's like, hey, I'm going to be in Dallas. I wonder if you'd like to come for coffee. I'm in Plano. It's probably a 40 minute ride to where he actually was. I'm looking at my calendar. I could squeeze it in. But I said, you know what? Yes, absolutely. I'll be there. Just to go have a cup of coffee and leave. He wanted to see me. I wanted to see him. I'm a relationship person. I'm doing it. So when I got there, I couldn't find the coffee shop because he was in a convention center. So I texted him and I said, dude, where are you? And he's like, oh, I'm in that big building right there. Go up to the second floor. I said, oh, okay. I get up there and there's a convention underway. There's about 700 attendees. And there's a bunch of stuff going on. And he goes, hey, I want you to meet somebody. And he introduces me to the people putting the convention on. And so I talk with that person. Okay, when was that? I'm going to say that was 2 years ago. I've spoken for those people 9 times since then. And there's more opportunity coming. And that's been a huge, huge payout. And so that's been a huge payout. yeah. So that was because I decided to go meet somebody to have one cup of coffee. Did I have any expectations? No, I thought we were doing coffee. And I end up coming away with tens and tens of thousands of dollars from that conversation. What else? Read books that stretch your brain beyond its capacity to imagine. People have called me a ninja, a mind melder, mind reader, best in the world, a behavioral savant, all within my area of expertise. In other words, people are really satisfied and happy with what I can do for them. So those are the things they'll call you. People will see you better than you actually are if they're empathetic. But what do I do to be really good at what I do? I listen to or read books every single day. Every single day. I got up this morning I woke up at probably 4 and was listening to a book about the brain. How many times have I been reading this book? How many times do I listen to this book? All the time. I don't know how many times I've read this book, but I just keep listening to it because the information is vetted, it's good, it's true, and it helps me understand how human beings think and do things. So that when I'm working with people, I can pull that out of my knapsack, so to speak, and use it. It's a tool in my toolbox. I've got 5 books I'm reading right now. I'm looking down right now. I've got 5 books open on my big, huge desk. I've got a big desk. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books open on my desk. I've got a few hundred books behind me. I've got books on my phone, and I'm always learning. Okay, so my knowledge is increased every 24 hours. Every day I wake up more informed than I was the day before. Now I'm writing books. So it's important that you are ever learning. You're consistently stretching your brain and learning new information. I'm 56 years old, and I find it far more difficult than I did 30 years ago to memorize. So I have to listen to things longer to get it in. And there's always what I call a clicking point, a point where it sticks, and now I have it. But it takes a long time for me. So I don't give up. I just keep doing it until it clicks. What's another thing you can do? Take bold steps. Oh, God. This goes back to 2006. I think it was late 2006. I was asked to speak in an event in Florida for free. And a good friend of mine said, dude, you have got to speak at this event. I said, well, what's the event? Well, it's 70 HR representatives. So basically, it's going to represent maybe about 50 to 60 companies. And I was really in the beginnings of my consulting business back then. So this was a while ago. And so I said, sure. And he actually bought my plane ticket, bless his soul. So I flew to Florida and spoke to it was around 60, 65 people on emotional intelligence. That was my topic. I came up with it on the plane. And then what I did after that talk was I walked among the people that were there. You know, I'm still presenting at this point. It was just towards the end. And I would have somebody stand up. I'd shake their hand and ask them what they did, you know, a little bit, just a couple, 1 to 2 questions about themselves. And then I profiled them based upon what I thought they were probably like. So I was guessing, but I guessed really, really well. So people refused to shake my hand after the event. So that was pretty fun. But while there, I ran into a woman. Her name was Pat. And she was, I don't know, she must have been maybe 4 foot something. She was very short. And she made me think of the lady on Poltergeist. That short little lady that they brought in to figure out what was going on with the spooks in the house. And she's like, Carol-Ann. That's kind of what she made me think of. So I was talking with her, and she was very dominant and guarded for a woman. And so I talked with her, and I said, I'd love to run your profile for you. She said, really? I said, yes, let me do it, please. I begged her, let me run your profile. You're going to love it. It's going to be really fun. So she said, okay. So I ran her profile. And she was I love this lady. She was so cool. So she did the profile. So what I did was, I was living in Boston at the time. So when her profile was done, I flew myself to Florida to debrief her for 2 hours. So I flew to Florida for a 2-hour appointment. And I didn't ask anybody to pay for this. I just did this on my own. I'm like, I'm going down there, and I'm gonna debrief this lady in her office on her turf. So that's what I did. I flew down there. I met with her in her office for 2 hours, and I went over her numbers and told her about herself. And really, she thanked me, and I left. That was it. And so it wasn't maybe a week later, I get a call from New York, because there's a company up in New York. You might be aware of it. It's called Beech-Nut Foods. And they were a sister company to the company I spoke to, the woman I spoke with down in Florida. So the main company was in Switzerland, and they owned Beech-Nut Foods, and they also owned the company in Florida. And so they had a big problem up there, and so I solved it. That led to, what did this all lead to? I'm going to say this all led to between $300,000 and $400,000, or something up there. I mean, one engagement that took about 30 hours to do, they paid me $87,000 for. All because of this 2-hour meeting that I flew to Florida to have, because I decided to speak for free. I got an Applebee's gift card for speaking to 65 people. So being available to speak to 65 people for an Applebee's gift card led to flying to Florida for 2 hours to speak to the Poltergeist lady, which led to over $300,000 in consulting work. So what is this story telling you? Take bold steps. Believe that something's going to happen. It's not about the money, you guys. It's about what leads to it. Strategic relationships, being optimistic about it, taking risks, the internet, believing that you are worthy of engaging with people that you might think are so much more smarter than you are. So those are some of the things that have happened. I don't want to make this too long because I want to save a bunch of stories for the future because I've got tons of them. But to recap, take bold steps. Stretch your brain. Are you learning or are you done with that? Never be done with learning. Learn new things. Be an expert. Be a resource. You know, people call me up. I just got a phone call yesterday from California. Random call. They called the business. And he just gets on the phone. He said, "Hey, I need help." I said, "Okay, what kind of help do you need?" And he started explaining this problem. This guy made no appointment. He didn't pay for the call. What did I do? Did I shut him down and say, "You need to make an appointment and pay me"? No, I'm not that guy. I took the call. I talked with him for about 40 minutes because I was done working. He didn't know this. I was sitting at the pool. What else have I got to do? It was an opportunity to encourage somebody, so I took it. And that's what you have to do. You have to be available to people. So I went from stretching your brain to being available. So that's another story. You have to be available to people. Will that translate? Yes, it always does. But that's never the goal. I didn't answer the phone and think, oh, maybe this is a person I can be available for and it will translate into cash. That's not what I was thinking. All I was thinking of is this kid needs a little bit of encouragement. So I did it. Build your relationships around the people you want to be like. Remember that one. Also, visualize and experience your future in the present. Try to become part of it. And then try to think into the future instead of thinking into the past. Think of what could be rather than thinking what was last time. And capitalize on all the technology that's out there. Some of you people could monetize what you're doing on social media right now. You don't even know it, and you're sitting home complaining because you broke. Stop that. Look into ways to monetize and capitalize on whatever you're bringing to the world. Do you know every single person that's listening to this right now has earning power? They all have earning power. Whether you've been to college, I didn't go to the university. I don't have that kind of an education. Most of you that are familiar with me know that. I was a house painter, for heaven's sake. And I was good at that, and I enjoyed that. But that, serviced me for 18 years. And this is servicing me now. What's servicing you? If it isn't servicing you, why are you doing it? You have to think about this. You have to believe that you're not stuck doing this or doing that. You have arms, you have legs, you have eyes, you have a brain. You have earning power. There's something about you that only you have and nobody else has. How can you capitalize on that? Well, I've got these weaknesses. Screw the weaknesses. Who cares? Put them in the closet. Don't worry about that. What are your strengths? That's the question. What are the strengths? Because the strength, if you're climbing a mountain, it's your strength that gets you to the top. It's not your weaknesses that get you to the top. So what are you worried about those for? It's the strengths that get you to the top of the mountain. And those are the things you need to be capitalizing on. Those are the things you need to be relying on. So that's all I'm saying for today. It's 7:24 a.m. on Saturday. This is going to be released today. That's what I love about this. I was laying in bed. I looked at a Facebook post and somebody reminded me of something I had said 3 years ago. It sparked my imagination. I got out of that bed. I walked into my office. I set up the equipment. Boom, here I am doing this podcast. It's going to reach a bunch of people. Somebody's going to be changed. I've made a difference, and now I'm going back to bed. Just for about 30 minutes. And then I'll get up because I've got a video conference with Canada today, so I want to be ready for that. All right, thanks a lot for joining us. This is Steve Sisler, and this has been Behavioral Insights.